This is Help Me Understand. Welcome back
To Help Me Understand
with Sean Tucker.
and Daniel Schmidt.
This is episode 5,
Churros Strike Back.
Churros Strike Back, long-awaited episode that we have been alluding to since episode 2, I believe.
I think it was 2.
Yeah. From our longtime listener, Rosemary Babetsky. Sorry, Rose Labar. Got married last year. You know how that happens when you know someone a long time and then they change their name and then
definitely
just takes forever.
Just like it doesn't click.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Like one of my sisters, it's really hard, saying her last name.
Yeah.
Because it's different.
It's different.
Yeah. Speaking of sisters, I realized that both of my sisters are now not subscribers, but they are listeners. So there's listeners awesome. 10 and 11 right there.
10 and 11. Beautiful.
Definitely wanted to make mention of that. My brother Joe's listening.
Nice.
He's the dad of the two guys I mentioned who do the YouTube channels. And I wanted to mention that I get really good rebuttals sometimes from people.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes in real time when the episode launches. Jason Muxlow is usually one who watches it immediately.
That's great.
And then he gives me real time commentary. So your episode on the movies with Kate.
Yeah. Okay.
He was commenting back the whole time, like while he's listening, and he's
beautiful.
like, "Well, that's an interesting take." And then I just get this list, and then he talks about. I have to mention we didn't mention Casablanca at all.
That's interesting.
Did we not?
Didn't recognize that.
Because then he wanted to mention that was his favorite film, and then some other commentary. I thought that was really cool because Mickey, longtime listener, who's probably going to do a future episode explaining to me exercise or running. I mean, he's going to explain us. He's going to help us understand running culture. But you guys are going to have to help me understand just exercise in general. So that's going to be fun. But he said, based on the episode, he said he put the movie I mentioned, which is called Room for One More with Cary Grant. He put that on his watch list because of what I talked about with the how it brings a lot of emotions to my wife and I, and that idea of a family who does foster care. So, so some positive feedback, some rebuttal. Do you got any new viewers on your end?
Not really. I know my mom was showing us off to some other people out there. You know, my mom's been a semi-long time listener. I showed her the first episode. But.
Yeah. No, I actually, she's one of the first people I text when we finish an episode. I always give her the episode.
That's great, because that's how she'll know. Like she will watch it if she gets it directly. So.
Yeah.
So,
and I felt like one of those first episodes, your grandma gave us a huge list of
my
commentary.
My grandma texted me like the day it came out
about how we were talking about Star Wars and
I don't remember what she was talking about, but she mentioned something. It was a pretty big. It was a pretty big list.
It was an intelligent rebuttal.
It was really nice.
I read the whole thing. I thought it was like, wow, she's really listening to what we're saying. We're just a couple of young punks here, and
punks.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for your grandma.
I do too. Yeah, she's a great grandma.
Yeah,
she's a great person.
But anyway, based on today's topic, I think first we have to establish this is Churros Strike Back. But 2 weeks ago, my kids, on movie day, we have movie day. They chose Empire Strikes Back.
Well, of course they did.
And within like 15 minutes, because I'm like doing stuff in the kitchen, and then I pop in, and then I say to my wife, I'm like, do you realize why this is such a good movie? I mean, there's 100 reasons,
of course,
why it is one of the best Star Wars films, or just best sequel ever made, or best sci-fi movie ever made. I mean, it ranks up there. You could argue me on that one.
I could, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I'm going to go on my rant about Vader here, okay? And then we'll get to the rest of the episode. But okay, in two scenes, Vader scenes, Vader establishes himself as the ultimate villain in cinematic history. Two scenes. Vader establishes his authority.
True.
Okay, so in the first Star Wars movie, in episode 4, For those of you Governor only listening to the audio of this episode, this is the part where you can see Sean's face clearly say, like, well, "Oh man, Dan, this is on a whole new level of nerdom. I can't even keep up. Like my brain has left the building."
True.
Sometimes you have like the dictator, and then he's got his generals, and a lot of power struggle typically happens with the prince.
Yes.
Vader's not his son, but he's his apprentice.
Yeah.
So there's that relationship there. So where does Vader fit into this hierarchy of generals? And it's established that Tarkin, is his boss, and Leia says, he's on his leash.
Yeah.
She actually makes that reference. In Empire, in 2 scenes, he establishes that he is the boss of the fleet. So in the first argument between him and a general is he's like, the rebels are there, and he's like, no, they're not. And he's like, yes, they are. Prepare your men. He says it, scene over.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, he's dispatching one of his generals because he did a dumb move, thus establishing that there is nothing stopping him from getting what he wants, and what he wants is Skywalker.
Very true.
Really interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
And, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And third point, which makes him an ultimate
At this point, Sean's just being polite.
It looks like he's taking
but
orders
clearly
from the Emperor.
Daniel has gone on a rant.
He was looking for Skywalker before the Emperor tells him to look for Skywalker, which tells you he has extreme authority over the fleet, and he's going rogue. Which we realize is going rogue for his son. He's looking for his son. See.
No.
Chew on that for a while. That's a couple of takes I have on Empire Strikes Back.
Very nice.
In honor of this episode, which is the Churros Strike Back. So before, I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm going to give you a chance to talk.
But that's
sorry.
Okay.
When I talk about
topic, man.
Yeah,
it's
I do care about Empire Strikes Back. So when you said before Rose gives you the explanation on to help you understand churros. Explain a little bit why you said you don't like them.
Honestly, I've just never really been a big sweet tooth guy. And it's just like when there's very specific things that I'll like that are like of the dessert category. Like I don't like pies. Pies are like something I never.
This whole episode. Oh, I'm gonna help you understand pie. This whole episode actually is brought to you by Bill Janetsky Pies.
Trademark.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I just I'll eat a little bit of ice cream, but I'm not like a big ice cream guy either.
Me neither, but I won't say I don't.
It's not that
ice cream.
I do not
I just don't
like
prefer
it. I'm not someone who will sit there and eat like a whole tub of it.
No.
Not that kind of person. But, so they're just things that I don't like, dessert wise. And it's just like churros is never something.
What desserts do you like?
I mean, I'll eat cake but it has to be very particular.
Okay.
It has to be very particular frosting. I don't like red velvet cake. I don't like that. Buttermilk frosting is the only frosting.
You're listing all these things you don't like, but now we're starting to create a list. It's all in this episode because I'm sure Rose will explain these things to you, and we'll write them down. You just said red velvet. Pies. Though.
But like whipped frosting, that's gross.
That could go hit and miss for me.
True.
Depending on where you got that whipped frosting.
Buttermilk frosting is the best frosting. It's the frosting that any cake that I ever order will be on. That's what it'll be. But churros just aren't something that I just like. They just.
What about them?
I'm not a big cinnamon guy.
And it's the cinnamon.
It's the cinnamon, and then also I think it might be a texture thing too.
Okay.
Because it's like. A churro. A churro is a churro, and I just don't like the texture of it, and then the taste is not something I really like or like to die over. It's just something from when I was a kid. It was just something I just didn't really like. Oh, a churro.
Oh, okay.
It was just, it's a churro.
Right, and that's fair because you need to establish your position.
Very true.
But we're gonna let Rose establish her position, which
Indeed.
must be strong enough that she insisted on doing an episode on it.
She seems pretty.
No, I will introduce her a little bit because we're going to get to that interview. But she's not a professional dessert maker. She's a above amateur,
so like a journeyman type thing.
But at the quality better than most professionals.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because she doesn't do it for money.
Yeah.
She does it because she loves it.
Yeah.
She makes all the cakes for her friends, all the pies for her friends, experimental desserts.
Which I found is like the people who do it just because they love to do cooking is like my grandmother. She cooks a lot, and it's because she likes to do it. She loves to do it.
Yeah.
And people like that seem to make some of the best stuff that are. So,
Yeah.
Go ahead, keep going.
Rose desserts are amazing.
Oh.
But second only to Bill Janetsky Pies. Trademark. Who is sponsoring this episode with a free pie.
Yes.
Which you will see in a second. But
he's going to pull it out of the wall or something. He's like, here's the one ring.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
But go ahead.
It's going to be awesome. She's just really good at she's also a very good writer. She reads more books. I think the only other person I think could claim has read more books that I know is Jessica Vanderklok. Speaking of the Vanderkloks, let's thank them for these lovely headphones. I wear them with pride.
Indeed.
I have the pink one. You have the orange one. Yep. These were supplied by the Vanderkloks for our media team. And
just for backups.
Yeah.
What are the name of them? I can't remember.
They're endearingly called the headphones of shame.
Ah, yes. Why is that?
It comes from Up, the movie, where the dog is like, oh, I don't like wearing the cone of shame. So these are the headphones we give to media people when they forgot their headphones. Then they were required to wear these. Beautiful. I like them.
They're nice. I think yours is nice. I like mine, but I think yours is nicer than mine. Like,
the pink llama.
Yeah. Llama. I like llamas. Llamas are cute.
So
we'll get to that.
Did we ever mention that the Vanderkloks listen?
Yeah. We've mentioned it before, not today.
Because Jessica always gives me a nice comment. Speaking of comments, let's do a little housekeeping. As every YouTube channel does, the reason why all these YouTube people say like and subscribe isn't necessarily for us so that we get more likes and subscribers. It's so that when we post a new episode, you're more likely to get notified on your YouTube page.
Very true.
So if you like listening to us, like and subscribe. It helps get the content to you. If you don't like our episode, we'll help you understand. Help me understand.
We'll have you on one day.
Yeah. But what other foods do you like? Like, just so we can get some.
I'm a big chicken guy.
Really?
I'm a big chicken guy. I don't know why. I've always been a pretty big chicken guy.
Any kind of chicken or specific?
Fried chicken is like top tier for me. I mean, I'll eat a nice grilled chicken, but if
fried chicken is in my top 10.
If someone's like,
foods.
"Hey man, I'm cooking some fried chicken tonight," I'd be like, "Oh, well, I'll walk over there."
Yeah.
You're 15 miles away. I'll start walking. Burn off the dinner before I even eat it.
There you go.
Get there.
Yeah, I love fried chicken.
Fried chicken's amazing.
Love it.
But I mean, any type of chicken really, I'll eat it. Not a big fish guy. Fish is not something I've particularly gone out of my way to eat. I'll eat some fish. I'll eat shrimp. I'll eat shrimp, but
maybe around Lent we'll have a help me understand fish.
Fair enough. I think that's fair.
I've heard from a lot of people. This is constant, and they're like, "I like fish as long as they don't taste like fish."
Yeah.
And I don't understand that one because I actually like the taste of fish.
I know.
So I want my fish to taste like fish.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, like I said, I'm not the best guy to ask, but I see what you're saying. I've heard it before too.
Well, we'll dedicate a Lent episode to that. I mean, and another housekeeping thing, just so you know what this podcast is, it's us talking about topics,
anything.
Yeah.
And we just if we don't like something, if we say, I don't like this, we have to have somebody on to explain why they like it and why we should at least give it a try.
Yes.
At the very least.
Yes.
Or why we should, get into it.
Right.
Or something. If it's a topic.
And it's quiet.
It's quiet. It's actually.
You notice how quiet it is?
I did notice that a couple minutes ago. I was
the episode 4 was the last episode that featured the background noise of VBS 2021. It was still there.
It was. Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh well, of course it was. We
Karen Price commented on that. Oh, another listener. Thank you, Karen, and for your feedback early on before we posted the episode. She was a early editor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, gave me a lot of good feedback.
That's good.
Where she was like, she posted it on Facebook, and she's like, and the reason for the background noise is VBS 2021. True. So we did a lot of recording that week.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, we had a few days.
Yeah.
We were just kicking it off right there.
Mm-hmm. So let's, without anything else to talk about, otherwise we're just going to get to Rose here.
Indeed.
Yep. Featuring Bill Janetsky pies.
Trademarked.
Here we go. So as mentioned before, we have special guest Rosemary Labar. I almost got that wrong. Sean and I talked about that. Help me understand baking in general, because that's something you do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So help me understand why baking and not just like go to Sam's and pick up a cake or something.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Because, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. And second of all, to understand.
You were one of our first listeners. That's why we had to have you on. Like, you listened to the whole episode. That's committed.
I always listen to the whole episode. I enjoyed the one about the classic movies because I like classic movies.
A lot of people did. Both of my sisters liked that episode, Teresa and Michelle. Yeah.
Yes, that was a fun one. Not that the others were.
What's your favorite classic movie?
My favorite classic might be Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn and Humphrey Bogart. It's really, really good.
Interesting. You know, I wish we could splice together the Harrison Ford version and the Hepburn version. And so Harrison Ford and Audrey Hepburn would be the couple.
Yes.
That's my dream scenario. But anyway, keep going.
That would be a power couple for sure. I would watch that. Yeah. So anyway, baking. Why not just go to Sam's?
Yeah.
Well, because anything you get from a chain or a grocery store or whatever is most likely going to have preservatives in it, and it's not going to taste quite as good. Just because fresh is always better. And I think that you can kind of tell with grocery stores, well, cakes, mainly people get cakes or pies, I would say, at grocery stores. I feel like donuts, you don't notice as much of a difference, like if you get donuts at a grocery store versus ones that you make yourself. But like
have you ever made a donut yourself?
Yeah, I've made donuts.
Oh, really?
I make baked donuts more often than fried donuts because I don't feel like messing with a deep fryer all that often. But yes, I have made donuts before. But anyway, cakes from a store will just taste like that cloyingly sweet flavor, which some people like. The thing with helping you understand baking is that baking is also super intensely personal preference. Mm-hmm. So, you know, depending on what you like.
The way you want something, you can make it that way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's why I don't like store-bought pies, because they have a ton of goop in their filling usually, because that helps keep the fruit stable longer. There's usually a preservative in that goop. Mm-hmm. And I don't like pies that have like that gel goop in them in the filling.
Okay, so actually Sean said today, I don't like pies. And I was like,
he's probably only ever had like goopy pies.
I don't think so. I think he knows enough people that have made him a pie.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I wish he were here so I could ask him if he doesn't like the texture, or does he not like the crust? Sometimes pie crust, you know, if it's not fresh.
I feel like when people express not liking pies, it's the crust. But, you know, a really good pie crust can make or break a pie. But when it's made well, it's just amazing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
This is making me hungry for pie.
I know, right?
I know. Well, this would be a perfect time to break into I just picked up a Bill Janeski pie made hand fresh by Bill Janeski, who made this for me last night. So that Rose, while you and I were talking, you could watch me enjoy this delicious cran apple pie.
Cran apple.
Just for you. So you can watch me devour this, and then you can politely ask me to bring one of these at Thanksgiving.
I am very, very jealous right now, and I will politely ask you to bring one at Thanksgiving, because the baby will be like 2 months old-ish at Thanksgiving, so I might not.
So you'll be grateful that I brought a Bill Janeski pie to Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes, I will, because I've had Bill Janeski pies before, and they are very delicious.
Let the record show
Not
that
as
Rose
delicious
just
as
said
mine,
that. Whoa, fighting words. So just a little bit about Bill Janeski, who's sponsoring this episode. Bill Janeski is a trained pastry chef. And around Thanksgiving time, if you live in the Grand Blanc or Genesee County area, you can order one of these. Or I can bring them to people in Pennsylvania who ask for them politely.
They're delicious. I would ask.
Sorry, we were talking about pies, but continue on your book report about baking.
Well, I just feel like probably the reason Sean doesn't like a lot of baked goods like pies or churros is because there's something about the texture or the taste.
He said texture and cinnamon.
Okay. Cinnamon can be potent. If you don't like cinnamon, it's definitely, there's no way around it in some desserts, Because Matt, my husband, is not a huge fan of cinnamon either. And I love cinnamon. So when I make an apple pie, I would usually put a decent amount of cinnamon in the filling. And I've had to tone it down for it.
Cranberries, like this delicious cran apple pie that I am currently devouring. It's so good.
I think I made a pear and cranberry pie one time, but I don't think I've ever made an apple and cranberry pie. It does sound delicious.
So what got you riled up when he said he didn't like churros? Like why was that personal for you?
Well, I wouldn't say I was riled up. It just blew my mind because churros are literally just deep fried bombs of dough and fat and sugar, and why wouldn't you like that?
Why wouldn't you like them? I mean, I love them. The best one I've had, I don't think you've made any for me, but the best one I had, Annie Babby has made, it was delicious.
Yeah. Churros are, I have made churros before. I think I've only made them twice, but, yeah, because it's kind of like, if you like a donut or a funnel cake or a beignet or really any kind of deep fried doughy deliciousness, it would surprise me that you didn't like churros. But again,
Sean likes donuts, so it's not like he doesn't like fried things.
Yeah. Maybe he just, had a batch that wasn't that great. Maybe they were old and a little stale, or
right. And as we do this whole help me understand thing, we're discovering that negative experiences contribute to people saying they don't like something. So we're helping people broaden their perspective and realize what negative experience did you have. For instance, I was talking about classical music. I think a lot of people might have had like one or two negative experiences with it and then didn't get the sample of the whole thing. But maybe that's the case with churros. But anyway, This is not about classical music. I could take over this podcast at any time with classical music or Star Wars, and I did that earlier with Sean today because this is Churros Strike Back, and I went on a rant about Empire Strikes Back. So, but how did you get into baking? Like, I mean, that's a lot of time. That's an entire afternoon to commit to something. How did you know you were good at it? Because people will ask you to make stuff all the time.
Thank you. I
ask you to make stuff all the time.
Oh, I know. I started baking when I would always help mom bake stuff in the kitchen. But I really got into baking with my friend Jackie when we were about 14. We were big fans of our local hockey team, and so we would listen to the games on the radio, like when they were playing away games, and we would bake while we were listening to the hockey games. And
what'd you start with?
So we started with apple pie, which is kind of a crazy, weird thing to start with, as opposed to like cookies or cupcakes or whatever. But we both really wanted to learn how to make apple pie. So we practiced pie crust a lot. And then I just found it therapeutic and I enjoyed it. It's very methodical, which appeals to my organized mind. I am not so much a fan of cooking because it's so much more just floop, floop, floop.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, why baking, not cooking? Why that is a therapeutic thing?
Because I like to measure things and have things. One of the best things I ever did for my baking was to buy a scale. So I do almost all of my recipes in like ounces or grams or things like that, which not only helps keep it more even, the measurements are more precise, it just appeals to my logical, precise, organized nature. So yeah, because it is a labor of love. I mean, there are things you can bake in 15 or 20 minutes, but not a lot.
Yeah, when someone bakes something for you, there's a special, I guess, emphasis behind it, because you have to know that had to have taken a long time.
Yeah.
Excuse me. For instance, like when you make me, these are called Bob Andy bars, and there's something Rose discovered in a cookbook one Thanksgiving. You made the pie first, but then you discovered the bar, but it's like the cinnamon custard. Yes. And it takes a while, and I always appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So then I know I'm loved. People bake to love.
Exactly. And
show their love.
That is definitely, Bob Andy bars are a labor of love, because
I feel the love, Bill. I feel the love, Bill.
They're a custard, so I bake them low and slow in the oven, so the eggs don't get overly eggy or cook too fast. So especially in the summertime, in an unair conditioned kitchen, to have your oven running for over an hour is a labor of love that I have done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You're welcome.
But what do you listen to when you bake currently?
Currently when I bake, I definitely have a variation of things I listen to. One of my favorite things to listen to right now is the Office Ladies podcast with Angela and Jenna from The Office, and they go through each episode and do a breakdown, and it's really fun and entertaining. And each podcast episode is about an hour long, which is give or take about how long I'm usually baking for, so that works. There's a couple other podcasts I listen to. I also like, there's a recording on Spotify of the Dominican sisters saying the rosary. So I'll put that on, because especially if I'm baking something that I've done a million times before, I can say my rosary while I'm doing something else too, which now that I'm thinking about it is maybe not.
Prayer and baking going together.
Yes, exactly.
Other things you bake. Sean said he does like cake, but he said not red velvet. Would you defend red velvet?
I would not defend it passionately. I feel like 90% of the time red velvet just tastes like either a chocolate cake dyed red, or I don't know.
So what's your favorite cake to make?
Well, my favorite cake to eat is chocolate. My favorite cake to make is anything that I can put a fun filling in. Like for my bridal shower last year, I did a chocolate cake with this. I got this cherry rhubarb jam. So it was like sweet and tart all at the same time. And it paired so well with the chocolate. And that was really fun to make. So anything that I can do like a fun little combo with. And mascarpone icing.
Actually, I don't even know what that is.
So mascarpone is like, it's a cheese. It's pretty bland in and of itself, which is nice because when you whip it into icing, you can make icing without using a huge amount of powdered sugar. So if you're not a fan of that super like wallop of powdered sugar buttercream, then mascarpone is an excellent choice because you can make a lighter, almost more of a whipped cream flavor icing. And it picks up other flavors really well, like a chocolate mascarpone, or I've done like a lemon or things like that, because it doesn't have a ton of flavor in and of itself, but it whips up really well. A lot of baking is structure and texture, you know. Mm-hmm. Obviously the flavors have to be there, but you know, if you don't get if you don't get the texture right, then it's like,
right.
Yeah, not worth it.
Well, this has been very insightful because I mean, I love to eat your baking, but to hear the whys of why it would be. I especially like you said that it was therapeutic. I think we've been talking a lot about the things that we like that matter to us.
Yes.
Just because they help with our daily life.
Not only to my brain, but then I get to give someone something, and that also makes me feel better. So yeah, it's
the gift
it's
of
really
baking.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
and then they eat it and they're all happy, and that makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I thank you for coming. But since it is episode 5, do you want have any comments about Empire Strikes Back to add to the awesome comments I already made about why Darth Vader is the best villain in cinematic history?
Okay. Well, actually, Matt and I just watched Empire Strikes Back like a week ago, so this is
there
good time to say. I think it's good because it's the middle of the story. There's a lot of action. You know the basic background. You've met the characters before, but you're like in the middle of the story, and you know there's more too. Yeah, it's just a fun part of the story.
Right. And Irvin Kershner actually said that's why he agreed to do it, because it was like the second act, and the second act, when things go bad, is always the best in a Shakespearean play. So
yeah, you've gotten past all the exposition and story.
Now let's get into characters and see what happens when bad things happen to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus Han and Leia.
Okay. Yeah. Well, speaking of Han and Leia, when we were talking about old movies, I was researching like the second writer, I'm going to mess up her name, so I'm not going to say it, but I'll put it in the credits. Who wrote the first draft was hugely responsible for why Han and Leia were successful, because she had, although being a sci-fi writer, she wrote a Humphrey Bogart movie and a lot of John Wayne movies. So she had experience in the older genre of filmmaking and the sci-fi, and so she knit those two together and came up with the first draft. So it's well written.
That doesn't surprise me, actually, that a woman was responsible for a lot of that, because it even though it's kind of a cliche, like the princess falls for the bad guy or whatever, it's a fun cliche. And I think that
it's a fun cliche because the moment they met each other in A New Hope, they hated each other.
Yes.
Because she's so strong-willed and he's so rogue that they were never going to get along. It's so much fun.
And that's why it's so fun in The Empire Strikes Back to watch them, because for the most part, she's still very strong-willed. It's not quite as much fun, at least for me and probably other females, in Return of the Jedi, because she spends so much time being Jabba's dolled up slave, and you kind of lose that.
Right. And some of the back and forth between her and Han is lost, because now, they like each other now. So it's not nearly as fun. You don't get to see some of her really passionate, strong side.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'd say that's why I like The Empire Strikes Back.
So thanks, Rose, for coming on the show. This is helped me understand.